There's a man in rural Arizona who convinced a group of people that he was a reincarnated alien Christ figure. He said Earth was about to go through a vibrational shift, and the only way to survive it was to live in a dome, eat only raw foods, and stop speaking to their families. So they did. Another group, they gave up their careers, their homes, even custody of their kids, because their leader told them that he was the literal voice of God. He also told them to do his laundry, by the way, but that part didn't make the scriptures. Now here's the question. Were these people unhinged, desperate, or were they human, like the rest of us, just caught at the exact wrong moment in their lives? Because cults aren't just robes, Kool-Aid, and compound gates anymore. They've evolved. They wear yoga pants now. They have podcasts. Some of them even show up on your For You page. In this episode, we're not just asking what makes a cult, we're asking how people end up in them. How a smart, self-aware adult goes from, I should work on myself, to, I think this man with a God complex deserves all my money and possibly my dental records. And yeah, it gets weird. So, what even counts as a cult? Because that word gets thrown around a lot. Some people call CrossFit a cult. Others say it's Apple, or people who still use cash. But actual cults, they go way beyond your annoying friend trying to get you to join her crystal pyramid mastermind group. Experts, yes, there are cult experts, and no, they don't wear tinfoil hats, tend to agree on a few key red flags. First, a charismatic leader. This is a person who knows all the answers, never makes mistakes, and has usually disturbingly shiny teeth. Second, control. We're talking about total behavioral, emotional, financial, and sometimes sexual control. You don't just believe in the mission, you live it, pay for it, and rearrange your entire personality around it. Third, isolation. From your family, from your friends, from any podcast that might help you spot what's happening to you. Cults don't want you asking questions. They want obedience wrapped in gratitude. Oh, and the thought-terminating cliches. These are those creepy little phrases you hear over and over again, like, don't be negative, or that's just your ego talking, or trust the plan. You start hearing the same handful of mantras over and over again until your critical thinking just naps. Now, here's the kicker. Not every cult starts out looking like a cult. They start out sounding helpful, purpose-driven, healing even. We're just here to help you unlock your true self, they say. Yeah? You're going to need my debit card for that? Cults aren't always about worshiping a dude in a robe. Sometimes they're just about control disguised as clarity. And once you're in, leaving isn't as simple as walking away. But before we get there, let's talk about how smart people, stable people fall into this mess in the first place. Let's get this out of the way. People who join cults aren't stupid. They're not gullible weirdos with zero life skills. They're regular people. People who were just vulnerable at the right or wrong moment. Turns out all it really takes is a little chaos in your life. Maybe you just got dumped. Maybe your job disappeared. Maybe your friend group fell apart, and suddenly the only person checking in on you is a guy named Orion, who says he's got a book that changed his life and also reversed his allergies. We all want to be seen, understood, safe. Cults know that, and they don't offer answers. They offer certainty, which, psychologically speaking, is even more addictive. The playbook is alarmingly consistent. Step 1. Love bomb the HECK out of you. You're amazing. You're chosen. You've finally found your people. Step 2, break you down. You're not quite enlightened yet. You've still got ego issues. You're resisting the work. Step 3, rebuild you into someone who doesn't question anything, hands over 10% of their income, and can recite 32 affirmations about the sacred geometry of healing light. All right, the last one's a little more specific, but you get the point. There's also a psychological term called cognitive dissonance. It's what happens when your brain is trying to hold two conflicting ideas at the same time. Like, this is definitely a cult, but I've already spent $6,000 on their retreat package, so it must be fine. So people double down, ignore the warning signs, because the alternative, admitting you've been manipulated. That's not just painful, it's identity cracking. And here's where it gets darker. Cults don't just change what you do. They change who you think you are. And the deeper you go, the harder it is to remember life before the group, even if life before was just you watching Netflix in peace without having to chant first. In the next part, we're going to zoom in on one real-life case that shows just how far this can go and how fast things can unravel once the robes come off and the real agenda steps in. We're talking about the Red Hat Group. JK. We're talking about Love Has Won, which ironically was a group that seemed determined to prove that no, it hasn't. At the center of it all was Amy Carlson, better known to her followers as Mother God. Amy was a former McDonald's manager who, after dabbling in New Age spirituality, convinced herself, and eventually others, that she was a divine 19-billion-year-old being who had been reincarnated over 500 times. She claimed to be Jesus, also Marilyn Monroe, also at one point Donald Trump's twin flame. So already off to a weird start. Her followers, a mix of spiritually curious folks who found her on YouTube live streams, Reddit threads, and fringe wellness communities. Many of them were looking for healing, purpose, a place to belong. Instead, they got detox smoothies with colloidal silver and a mandatory 5D ascension schedule that somehow included very little sleep and even less actual science. Amy was reportedly erratic, abusive, and, according to her own people, high on a revolving door of substances. She also insisted she was in constant communication with angels, galactic federations, and Robin Williams, who she claimed was an archangel now, which honestly raises more questions than it answers. But here's where things go from weird online cult to possible crime scene. In 2021, Amy's mummified body was found in a Colorado home. She was wrapped in a sleeping bag, decorated with glitter, and surrounded by Christmas lights. People said the remains appeared to have been there for weeks, maybe months. The group still filming videos, still praising her, and reportedly still referring to her as ascended rather than, dead. 7 members were arrested. No one's been convicted of murder, and the group still floating around in various forms, sometimes under different names, because that's the thing about cults. They're like viruses. Kill one strain, another one mutates and keeps going. Love Has Won wasn't thousands of people in robes. It was maybe a couple dozen hardcore believers in a much larger digital footprint. But the tactics? Classic cult playbook. Control, worship, disconnection from reality. And it all started with a woman who wanted to help people, then decided she was God. Okay, so let's say you're in. You've got the lingo down. The group chat is nonstop affirmations. And your family thinks you've joined a personality cult because, well, you have. Now what? Getting into a cult is usually a slow, sneaky slide. Getting out, that's the part that wrecks people. First off, most cults won't just let you walk away. They make you feel like leaving is a betrayal of the group, the leader, of your higher self, whatever. They've spent months or even years convincing you that everyone outside the group is toxic, unenlightened, or working for some shadowy dark force, a cabal. And now you want to go back to them? Leaving doesn't just mean moving out. It means walking away from your whole entire worldview, your community, sometimes your partner. In a lot of cases, it means being completely alone. And if you do leave, good luck. You might get publicly harassed, publicly shamed. Some groups go full scorched earth, threats, lawsuits, stalking, all in the name of love and light, of course. Even when no one's actively trying to stop you, the psychological grip is brutal. People report symptoms that sound a lot like PTSD flashbacks, nightmares, panic attacks. Because when your identity has been hijacked, freedom doesn't feel like relief. It feels like being untethered in the middle of nowhere. One former cult member said it took her years to stop hearing her leader's voice in her head every time she made a decision. Another couldn't trust her own instincts because she'd been trained to doubt anything that wasn't from the source. And then there's the guilt. Guilt for recruiting others, guilt for believing, guilt for staying as long as you did. It's like escaping a psychological maze you didn't even know you were in, and then realizing you helped build part of it. That's why deprogramming isn't some 3-day detox. It's therapy, time, sometimes entire identity reconstruction, because leaving the group is one thing. Leaving the mindset is a whole other beast. And here's the part that people hate to hear. You, listening to me right now, are not immune. I'm not immune. No one is. Not because you're weak or gullible or the type of person who thinks a guy in a tunic has really good ideas about ascension, but because cult tactics don't start as control. They start as comfort. They show up in places that you're already vulnerable. The wellness group that says you're sick because your energy is blocked. The entrepreneur coach who says success is just a mindset. A political influencer who tells you the real truth as long as you stop talking to anyone who disagrees. That's the thing. Most cults don't need a compound anymore. They have apps, live streams, branded hoodies, gold sneakers. And instead of don't question the leader, it's don't be negative. Instead of us versus them, it's we're the only ones who get it. So what do you look for? Watch for leaders who can't be questioned. Watch for language that shuts down curiosity. And especially watch for any group that makes you feel special only as long as you stay loyal. It's easy to think, that would never be me. But the truth is, cults don't look like cults until you're already in too deep to notice. Thanks for listening to this episode of 10-Minute Mystery. I'm Joe, the host. Be sure, if you're listening right now, to subscribe wherever you are listening. Rate and review the podcast so that more curious minds can find it. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can go to the website of my other podcast, 10minutemurder.com, and you can get more information about that podcast as well as contact me there. Thanks for listening. See you next time.